All right, welcome back. This is episode two of Beyond the Jersey, where we take some of the jerseys and other memorabilia that we've kind of collected along the way of our cycling, careers, and just kind of go back along memory lane. So we'll do that, and then we'll kind of go into our coach's corner and talk a little bit about base training. And then from there, we'd like to kind of recap an event that we were part of at the Borderlands Gravel that was last month. So I just wanted to give that out to everybody, kind of what's on our agenda for today, and um, and then thank everybody for the engagement that we got on episode one, and we had a good time, and it's taken a while for us to get back going again, but I think once January hits, we'll be motivated and ready to put out some more episodes. So if you have any ideas for an episode, feel free to reach out anytime. Back with me this time is Coach John Benson and Coach Chad Byer. So we'll get to hear their perspectives along with, so I don't talk too much. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Yeah, doing good. Yep. Nice chilly
Has
evening
winter?
here in northern Arizona.
Yeah, we're about 15, 20 degrees out, and I got about 8 inches of snow out in the yard. So, but we are going to be like in the 40s for the rest of the week. I think all the snow's going to melt. So,
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's supposed to be nice and toasty here. These mid 50s.
71 here right now, so I can't complain.
well, I'm looking
Nice.
forward to. I think I'm going to head down to Arizona next week. A little bit of pre-holiday riding, trying to get in for myself and visit some family. I may stop by in Flagstaff, so if I do, I'll reach out to you, John, see if you're around. And then
That sounds good.
if I make a stop in Phoenix, I don't really like doing that, but if I do, I'll reach out to you, Chad.
Sounds good.
Oh man.
So today's jersey, because our coaching tips is our coach's corner is going to be we're going to talk a little bit about base training and some of the some of the things that are great, and some of the mistakes that
hmm
are made, how to go from you don't want to be the winter hero, summer zero in your base training. And so the jersey that I picked for today is this jersey. Let's show the back first. MBAA. This is the Cantina jersey. I don't know if Cantina is still around, but it's really heavy material. It's not like a normal
Yeah.
cycling jersey. And it's the 1997 state championship jersey. Um, I've never worn it. I took it and then I put it up. So, winning this jersey was a big deal for me. I turned pro, pro 1996, and and I didn't race. I was injured early in that season, so I didn't race a lot of the MBAA series. And so in 1997, I got to take full advantage of racing the whole series. And at that time, the jersey, and I think for most years, the jersey or the state championship jersey was a cumulative thing throughout the series. It wasn't like a winner takes all one race, which it is now. And so this was actually the first state championship jersey that I ever won, and so I was pretty excited to I don't to take home the win, I guess, but I don't really remember too much about the details of that season. Were you in Arizona yet, John, or no?
I moved to Flagstaff in Arizona August of 97. So I
So
hadn't started going to any races until 98.
yeah, the Arizona series is probably the first series that starts in the United States. It starts in January and goes through May. So yeah, you would have just missed it. So we'll have to
Yeah.
look back on 1998 season at some point.
It's funny. I might not
Did
have
you?
started really racing until 99.
I was about to say that was probably my first year, 99.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
Yeah,
remember battling the rocks in Arizona and just getting my butt kicked so hard because in Idaho, that's where I pretty much done most of my riding. It's just smooth trails. So I knew how to turn, but I didn't know what to do with the rock.
oh
Got a
yeah,
lot of
that's right.
broken bike parts.
You're on one of those monoshock bikes. What were they called?
Action Tech?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep. It had that first generation kind of a head shock looking thing.
I definitely remember that you and your roommate at the time, Jake Rubelt, showing up from Idaho and having some negative degree stems on those Action Techs, and they're light bikes.
Yeah.
Was the series the same back then as it is now?
Uh, yeah, since I don't remember the series too much, MBAA is the Mountain Bike Association of Arizona, and I believe it started in 1991. And I was at the first race. I was a sport rider, which is now called Category 2. The first race was in Yuma. So, the race series, I mean, to answer your question, it's pretty much the same. I mean, there are a couple different courses now, but it's been very similar where it was about 6 races, maybe 7 at the most. And where they started, at some lower elevation or warmer weather, and then they would typically, go up to Flagstaff for the series finals. And I do actually remember that from my 97 race was, I think the state championship race may have been at Fort Tuthill when they built that competition course there.
Well, there was also a race that time called the Rock Rabbit up
Uh,
here.
It could have been that also. It probably was that, which was very rocky.
Very rocky. Very, very rocky. Yes. Lots of crashes there. And then the races that I think are still in it is mainly Estrella and McDowell from back
Yeah,
then.
it's that Yuma race. I don't think we ever returned to Yuma, or I don't remember ever returning there. And Estrella's always been there, although the course has changed now. Phoenix has been the park system there in Phoenix has been really good about building, some competition courses, which have their good and bad things about them. And White Tanks, that's another one that's always been there. I don't know if they've been there the last couple years. With some conflicting events, I think. McDowell didn't really come a really big part of it until they built the Cactus Cup course there. I don't remember what year that was. It must have been 95, maybe.
That's what I was gonna say. Somewhere in there.
But yeah, we raced in Tucson before quite a few times, which they don't have a race in Tucson anymore. And then I remember racing Flagstaff, Prescott,
Casa Grande.
Casa Grande for that was the season opener a bunch of years. Then they also had a race course just outside of Prescott in Mayer, Arizona, which was on a like an off-road race course, where they raced off-road buggies and motorcycles. And I think this was that year, 1997. I raced there in the rain and super muddy, lightning, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
That was one of the first races that I met Jeff Rash, if y'all remember him.
Oh yeah.
He had
Oh yeah.
just come back from Europe, racing a
Yep.
lot of road bikes, and he 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 was one of the first guys that put a really good tactical move on me that I remembered, and then I used throughout. Used it many more times, but we were just both so dead at the end, close to the end of the race, and he put in this little dig, and I was like, I had nothing, and he rode away and took the win that day. But talking to him afterwards, he didn't have anything either. He thought he would just put something in just to see what would happen, and mentally he got me.
Did you get?
Did you do any, Chad? Did you do any mountain bike racing with the MBA?
Yeah, I started out. Well, I initially started out with BMX, and then I progressed to mountain biking after that. After doing a couple of years of BMX, but I did the MBA series. I think I did most of the races when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, around those years. And I was pretty into it. And then when I was about 15, 16, that's when I started getting more into the road. But that was a great series. I haven't been out to one of those races in a long time. I might have to go back out sometime.
They're still doing pretty well. I mean, they're not as big as what they used to be. I mean, it used to be one of the only series or one of the few series out there. And of course, the Cactus Cup was a huge event. So we'd always have a lot of pro athletes that would come down from, winter climates and either do some racing, at the beginning of the year or do some racing right before the Cactus Cup or afterwards. And there was always, some a little bit of prize money for them to race for. And it's been a staple. I mean, I don't even know of any other series out there that's been going since 1991.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's impressive.
Yeah, and it's such as far as developing cyclists, it's so important to have something like this. And I think Arizona's fairly unique in that way, that it's a whole state and people travel around and do. I mean, most of the Phoenix area races definitely get a huge population to come out. I think they still get close to 1,000 riders, on the first few races, with junior riders being a big part of that. Uh, but for riders to develop, from junior like you did, and even well, I didn't race any MBAA as a junior, but I went up through the whole, I went from Cat 2 to start with. Then I was the Cat 1 rider and I was there for 3 years. And then I raced professional from, then on. And just to have that support network and ability to go out and race, it's just not something that a lot of people have opportunity with.
That's for sure.
And it's not always for that either. It can be, or, as far as for pro racers or people developing, it can just be just an experience that an achievement of going out and doing you know, if you do the marathon race or you do your first time race, or, I remember my son going out, his first race was at MBAA. And,
Mm-hmm.
it was an experience for him and for me too,
Yeah.
to watch him race and tag along a little bit. I think I did the second lap with him because he had a huge crash on the first lap, but he wanted to finish, which was
Ooh.
which was great. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually chatting with my buddy Stevie, who I grew up racing with, about our first mountain bike races. I think we were probably about 12, and just navigating that environment. Like, you're 12, you're young, you're going out in a race, trails I'd never ridden before, and it starts raining. I remember it must have been one of the northern Arizona races, but the rain turned to hail. And at some point, I'm just crying on my bike. I was like 12 in the middle of nowhere in the woods, just going as hard as I could, but crying. I'm like trying to navigate these emotions as a young kid and the effort and just the whole environment. It's like, yeah, there's some growth there as a junior. But I think
Yeah.
anyone, you put yourself in that environment, there's opportunity for growth.
yeah, no,
100%.
it's and they have, or I was just talking about it, they have, even a marathon series now. So you can go out there and race for 4 hours if that's, your deal. And no, I'm really stoked. I know that I took the Western Colorado University team out to the Lake Havasu race, which is probably one of the least attended races due to where it's at. It's just super hard to get there, but it's super unique riding area and fun. And I know we're going to head back, get out of the winter here and head back down there, next spring as well.
Nice. Oh man, that's got to be a long drive for you guys.
Yeah, it's like 12 hours, but it's our spring break. We'll go down, do a race, and then we'll hang out in Arizona and ride all week.
Nice.
Got to hit Sedona at least for a couple of those rides.
Nice.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, Havasu is a fun course. I always liked riding there because you can race it tactically, and it's not all mountain bike races can be done like that because they might have a skills focus, which isn't super tactical. It's just whoever can ride the smoothest, kind of get away and win. But when you can have tactics and race with your brain, it's really it's a lot of fun. I think Havasu is one of those. Like so is McDowell too. You can go pretty tactical there.
Yeah. Well, with that, I mean, we coach a few athletes that are getting ready for this MBAA series. I mean, this might be a good segue into our coaches corner. I mean, do y'all have anybody doing any specific base season, or things, or do you have any tips as far as, going going into that base season? I mean, if you're MBAA, I guess you got to time it right, if you are in base season now, and which races play to your strength, or what's your overall goals, because like I said before, if you're a winter hero, summer zero, so if you
Mm.
peak, in January, it may not be so good for you if you plan to do some Colorado racing, or even just, the end of the season. I mean, it's like 5 months away from the first race.
I haven't worked with a lot of athletes for quite some time that were doing the MBAAs. I think I can't even remember the last time. Probably a couple that I was working with that moved to Texas recently did do quite a few of them. But I know that it was always hard to transition out of summer, with enough time off to start with some of the warm up races because, we have races starting even this weekend in Phoenix.
What is base season, and why does it matter? I guess I would say that, some of the big things for base seasoning is you're trying to build an aerobic engine. You may be trying to create some sustainable habits like sleep,
Hmm.
or if you're changing your nutrition, or maybe adding some mental preparation into things. Do y'all have any tips around those things that you're having athletes to do?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my athletes, I'm having them just refocus on, zone two and laying down that solid aerobic base, that foundation to build off of later in the season. I might have a couple athletes that do some NBA races, but that's not the main priority. They come later in the season for most of my athletes. We've got some time to build that, aerobic base, and it's just spending time in that zone two, mixing some strength in there too, and then still touching VO2 every now and then, so they're not losing, too much VO2 max. But yeah, there are lots of benefits, come out of that low intensity, high volume training, and I think you can always gain something by spending time there. And then I think it depends on the athlete how much time they need to spend there in order to achieve their goals. And then their goals play a big role in how much time you're spending there. But like a Grand Tour rider probably doesn't need huge amounts of, uh, uh, tons of volume in the off season if they had a huge season. If they ran, did multiple Grand Tours or finished with the Volta, they need a little bit more rest and then get ready for the season again. But I think most people can benefit a great deal from low intensity, high volume training if they have the time to do it. And then the more time you spend there, the
Hmm.
more gains you get.
I would agree, like volume is going to be the over intensity. That's your main thing if you have the time. And everybody talks about zone 2 training, and I basically describe it to people as if you can say, the first sentence of the Pledge of Allegiance while you're riding, then you're in zone 2 and you're doing well.
Mm.
If you have to stop and take a breath in the middle of that sentence, then maybe you're a little too hard. Going back to time, if you have less time, then you may have, you may be wanting to ride just a little bit harder than that, where you're still staying aerobic, but you're still getting some of those benefits as well.
I'm a big proponent of Fat Max work with a little bit lower cadence and really focusing on heart rate. Not too worried about the power, but really just keeping your heart rate below, in the zone 2 range as comfortable as possible. Always being able to make that, to speak and have a conversation and ride fairly easily. But that for the athletes, the time crunch athletes that I've worked with, that's been super effective way to kind of get them ready for the type of racing, and especially for gravel racing. Fat Max always did really well. That and the low cadence, kind of low heart rate stuff with a little more torque. So that's always been a good go-to for me.
Yeah, I like that low cadence work too. I've seen big benefits in that myself and my athletes, and yeah, I usually prescribe that
Yeah.
to my athletes during this time of year too. Lots of low cadence work, and then I do like to do a lot of the base training off of heart rate as well. I think that helps people not chase watts in the off season, because the FTP might drop this time of year, but they have a
Hmm.
past history of their fitness being at a certain point, so it's easy to overdo it.
Yeah.
And especially in Arizona, where there's so many group rides, and it's easy to go out and train hard all the time. So I think going out a little
It's
bit more.
also the hardest way to stay entertained, right? I
Well, I would
think it's
third that
boring.
this is the time to really pay attention to heart rate, and I try to you know say it over and over to my athletes that even though that the watts are at 200 watts or whatever, we're doing 3 times 20. And if you see your heart rate going above your zone 2, then it's time to back off. And I would rather you this is something else I always tell athletes. I'd rather you err on too easy versus error on too hard. So if you're questioning anything, just go easier. You're gonna,
It should be easy.
yeah, it
Definitely
should be
should be
very
easy.
easy.
Yeah, this time of year, base training for me, it was always a test of patience. And it's like the more patient I could be through
Man.
this, the more fitness I'd have in the summer.
Yeah.
But I was
Uh-huh.
always like, habitually overtraining, just high zone 3 most of the rides and overdoing it. It's like most amount of work with least amount of gain. But yeah, being patient this time of year goes a long way.
Maybe we should rename our ATP segments with this is the patient phase, and then we have the go for, the anger phase, and then we have the be a champion phase.
Nice. I would say the one caveat I have is when I have some athletes that are living in northern climates and they're indoors, I will reverse everything and I will have them do intensity over these first couple months. And then as time changes and it starts to warm up, middle of March and April, then we go in
Yes.
and put in the base. So, and they typically have some, goals that are later in the year. I mean, if they have some goals that are early, it's kind of hard that you're just gonna have to do some trainer time. It depends what those goals are, but like if you're doing the BWR and in Arizona and you live in Minnesota or something, you're gonna have to do some trainer time for sure.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of long trainer rides personally, and I think that unless you're a really well trained athlete, they can be kind of detrimental, because they're hard to recover from. I feel like they're like 1.5 times an outside workout most of the time. But one thing that I have seen affect, well, Chad and I worked on this in the past, is doing two-a-days on the trainer. So you do one in the morning and then one in the evening. And you don't have to sit for quite so long in one go, but you get a lot of benefit out of those double day. And you can do it when it's dark outside, the light and the weather doesn't really affect that. That's been one good workaround, I think, for a base season build up that's worked really effectively for me and for athletes that I've worked with.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to do that or even double up on some other cross training, I've had some athletes, even Rose Grant, used Nordic skiing
Hmm.
quite a bit, and we would do a morning, workout on the trainer, and then she would go out and do some endurance on the skis, and that keeps you
Awesome.
from your mind going too numb.
Hmm.
I don't know about the 1.5 times what it is outdoors. I don't know. We should
I'd
we
say
should argue
mentally,
about that.
mentally, yes, for sure, mentally.
No, it's not. I would look at the kilojoules and say, all right, how many kilojoules did it?
Yeah, energy expenditure, but I'm saying mentally taxing. I think the trainer is.
I think physically
For sure.
taxing too. Maybe my trainer is just set up wrong, but that's just something that
There
I've
could be a
noticed, and I've
discrepancy
I've
in
I've,
power.
I've corroborated this with other people as well.
So I lasted 2 hours today and I did 1,000 kilojoules, and that's about a normal outside ride for 2 hours to me.
And,
Hmm.
But
yeah, if you're in Phoenix and you don't have your Garmin on autopause and you're stopping at lights, that adds up. Uh, you know, Junk miles in there where you're just sitting around. A 2 hour
yeah, I
ride
was
in Phoenix versus with no autopause on the lights, then there could be a discrepancy.
yeah, I was in Colombia today. So I tried out the My Whoosh, John, that we talked about on the last segment, and it's pretty good and it's free. So I like it.
Love that.
Yeah, I need to use the Training Peaks virtual a little bit more and maybe see which one I like better. Well, is there any other the other thing I had on base training was just being consistent, you know, or what they call the 80% rule. Like if you just do 80% of your workouts, you're setting yourself up really well. And when you do
Hmm.
get sick or you do take a trip for the holidays, it really doesn't affect you as much as if you're not being consistent. So it's a great time to be consistent with your writing, but also just creating those habits.
Definitely. And it's a good time to get into the gym, to organize your thoughts for the next season, what your goals are, where your weaknesses that you can work on, and also practice some visualization because when you're wishing you were outside on the trainer, or you're thinking about your goal setting and the events that you want to do the following year, like visualizing the the path to get there and to have success on the day can start when you make the decision to go do it. And I think that's really important to think about and exercise that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, any mistakes you guys see athletes doing out there during base season?
Well, I touched on mine a little bit. Overdoing it in the off season is
Hmm.
easy to do in Arizona, where the weather's great from October, through April. So I think just
Well, if you're an
smart.
athlete in Arizona, you might not be riding as much in the summer. That
Yeah,
that maybe it's prime time. Maybe that's what you're training all year for. And the time off the bike, you definitely have to watch out.
yeah. It just depends on what the goals are, how far out you are. I think, yeah, for me, myself personally, is just overdoing it in the base phase with intensity. That'd be the biggest mistake. I think that's easiest to make.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest one is people just tend to go too hard during the base season, and it's really hard to talk people into, especially persuade them or let them know the consequences if they don't, but to get them to ride really slow, it's hard.
Mhm.
So I'd say, well, on the other side of that, or part of that is just recovering or neglecting or ignoring your recovery. This is a good time to there's no need if you're sick or anything to push yourself into a workout, taking an extra day or or even just listening to yourself, learning to listen to yourself a little bit more. And then, if you wake up and you don't feel great, you're like, man, I just don't feel like riding today. or I don't feel like this specific ride, then, reaching out to your coach and, it's your body's probably just telling you something, and it's a good time to experiment with that. It's not high consequence if you do something wrong, and taking an extra rest day is usually not wrong anyway. So, do you guys have athletes, establish any baseline this time of the year?
Fitness wise,
Yeah, like doing any testing or anything like that?
yeah, I like to do just standard basic, you know, FTP tests around this time of year. Trying to do one every quarter with my athletes around that, and just seeing where they're at. That way we can dial in the zones and make sure we're training effectively.
Yeah, it's WKO allows you to kind of see everything in real time, and it's
Yeah,
not always necessary to do the test, but I do think it's a good idea for athletes to test, at least once a year, and just to go through it. I think mentally it's a good thing, and yeah, it kind of just sets some baselines because a lot of times, especially if you're just coming back, your threshold is going to be a little bit lower, and you know where you're at, and then you can compare from one year to the other. It's like, where were you at in January last year? Look where you're at right now, and or where were you at 3 years ago?
Hmm.
So the more data you have, then the more you can kind of go back and check and make those comparisons, or realize that, if you're doing some sort of, with the tests that we do, you can see where you are from a metabolic standpoint, and where are you lacking, because that can help give you some direction on what this athlete needs, and where you want to go with them.
yeah, and then I think it's dependent on the athlete, their strengths and weaknesses, and what their goals are for the year. So if their strengths is that 3 minute power, but they want to be a Leadville athlete, you're gonna have to do some you know different training in order to optimize their different energy systems or shift them uh, from that more glycolytic to more fat burning athlete.
Yep, there's a little bit of practice with the carbohydrate usage and strategizing your fueling, which you can practice a lot during this time of year, so that you have an idea of when you can ride with fewer calories and in what ways. One of the benefits of riding with a lower heart rate is, you should be able to ride with fewer calories on the bike. Learning your body and what the signals are for when you need to eat, trying to get by with less, training that metabolic pathway to work for the moment.
Yeah, I do think it's a good time of the year for athletes to kind of balance things out, because most of us eat a lot of carbohydrates during the year, and just to kind of go back and work your gut a little bit, you know, help yourself out, eat a little more fiber, and just remind yourself to, eat a little bit more balanced meal plan during this time of the year. I think it was Dr. Phil Maffetone that he has what I like it. It's a simple rule. It's called the hand rule. Like during this time of the year, it's the one hand. So if you have a chicken breast in this hand, you want to have the same amount of carbohydrates like your mashed potatoes in this hand, and you want to equal those out. And that's a good way to go during this time of the year. And as your intensity starts to grow, then those carbohydrate hands, maybe it's two carbohydrate hands to one hand of protein, and then maybe even three carbohydrate hands to one hand of protein, depending on how
Hmm.
much how much work you're doing. But I always thought that that was a great model, and it's something I've recently experimented with. I usually don't mess with my diet too much, but it's been good for me, actually. I'm enjoying it, just eating some different foods, and yeah, I'm sure I'll go back to more pasta and stuff later, but right now it's a little bit chicken. I've even been eating some pork chops, and you know, maybe have some lentils and lots of
Yeah,
broccoli, and those things, or try to talk my wife into eating some cauliflower. She hates it.
broccoli is one of the new magic superfoods.
But yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. What's that drink called?
No, no me. something like
Yeah,
that.
something like
It's a
that. Yeah.
drink? I haven't heard about this.
Nomeo, something like that. Yeah.
Chad's gonna be drinking it before his marathon here next week.
I just eat broccoli a couple times a week.
Chad, you're doing a marathon next week?
On the 21st.
Man, that's cool. On.
Well, if anybody out there has some base training questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Just send us a message through all the internets.
Mhm.
What about, John and I recently went to Borderlands Gravel. It was literally on the border, and you could volunteer and ride into Mexico, then back across. Uh, Unfortunately, it was very early in the morning, so I didn't participate. But
Me either.
I did participate in the race. So, but it was, we sponsored the event and are partnered with them and provided some information around training for gravel events and it was way down in Douglas, Arizona, and we had quite a few athletes there. We had a pasta dinner for athletes the night before the race, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a super good time to hang out and enjoy. Our other coach Jeff was there, and just getting to see a couple of people that he's coaching that I haven't seen in a long, long time. They used to live here in Flagstaff, and the rest of the people that were hanging around. It was a good time. Really, really refreshed me and enjoyed it a lot. It was worth the drive.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, the course wasn't super exciting. I mean, the gravel was pretty good actually. It wasn't. I didn't. I
Yes.
mean, there were some rocks, but it wasn't like rocky. And but what was exciting to me is it was a tactical race. Like you were talking before, and we go to so many events that it's you against the course,
Hmm.
which are great. Tusher and the Crusher, or any of the BWR events or anything, the course is your main competitor. But this race, at least for us or our group, it was more like it was a tactical race, and I hadn't been in one of those in a long time.
Definitely. I agree. That was fun to sort of assess the other riders as we were getting through the neutral area and getting the first few miles in, and then watching, you know, attacks go and who was ready to continue on and go with the attack and who was already kind of maxed out at the first few miles because they spent too much time at the front. I know we were talking with one of your athletes, and we were kind of telling him no, probably wasn't the way to go at the beginning to, you know, to to finish the way that you had planned. So that was definitely kind of fun to watch and be able to kind of start mapping out what at least what I thought people were going to be doing out there. And it was fun to be in the field with you again. We get to do that a little bit, infrequently, once a year or something like that. It seems like, but it's really fun.
How big of a field was it?
We did the 60 mile. I don't know. We probably had 50, 60 people on the start line. I mean, it was all categories. And
Hmm.
as we were riding, I mean, we were literally riding on the border for the first few miles, and it all stayed together. And we had one of Jeff's athletes was there, and we knew he was the strongest athlete in our field. It was nice to coach him a
Hmm.
little bit, um, because he was wanting to attack right off the start, and it was like, man, you
Well,
don't
he
need to do
did
that.
launch the first attack that separated from the whole mass start down to 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, my athlete that was on the front, I didn't realize that he was on the front. I was in the back just hanging out, and yeah, when Ethan put down his little dig right at the top of the pavement, because we had a small pavement section, and it was the climb, and then it went straight into a pretty fast downhill. And yeah, there were seven of
Hmm.
us that kind of split from the group, and we rotated through for a few minutes just to establish the break, and then that was it. I mean, it was
Yep.
7, and then it became 6, and and yeah, like you said, it was fun. It was just assessing the other riders and coaching Ethan a little bit, and for me, just survival. I
Yeah.
wasn't super fit going in, and so I did very, very little work, and just to see what you can get away with, because it's just for fun. And
Yeah,
Tinker was
exactly.
in our group, and he wasn't doing any work either. So,
Nope. Nope. No work.
and
Zero
and no
pulls.
drinking either. He did 0 pulls and 0 drinking from his water bottle. He did eat some food along the way. Um, and and then we had one guy that was trying to be aggressive. He really wanted to break away, and he tried a couple times, but we didn't let him too far off. But the biggest dig he put in is, at the turnaround. I mean, 3 of us stopped for water, and 3 didn't. So he did not,
Hmm.
and him and Tinker and we had a young kid with us. I think he's probably 16, 17. Man,
Yeah.
they started pushing pretty hard after that. So John really held Ethan's reins back and allowed me to stay with them as we pulled them back over the next few miles. So
Yeah, I had already started to see the wheels start to fall off the few miles before that turnaround. So I was pretty sure we were gonna have to like launch any kind of a rescue mission to get back up to the front. I knew that we could reel them in because the wind direction was coming a headwind now on the way back. So yeah, Ethan definitely was chomping at the bit to go right back up to them. And I told him to holster, sit behind me, let's just go, keep it steady. Wanted them to get a little more tired before and just worry about us sitting here. And it worked out pretty good.
no, it worked out great for me, and I was able to connect back with the group, and then right when we did connect, I think you put in a pretty hard little effort. It wasn't a big climb or anything, but it was enough that I felt it. And, I go back and look at my power files, and I was definitely my like highest 2 minutes of the race. Um, and everybody stayed together, but you could see at that point, the wheels are starting to come
Hmm.
off. And
Yeah.
even a couple miles later, I actually came off, and along with the guy that was aggressive or more aggressive.
Yeah.
And then I put in a hard effort just to get back to the group, and fortunately y'all slowed down, and then I was able to connect. And then you and Tinker on the final climb, you and Tinker rode away again, and I knew that there was pavement and downhill right after that, so I just struggled and made it up to you guys, and then it was just us three. Ethan had already launched his big
Yeah, he
attack, and
was.
he was obviously riding away, but so then it was us three to the finish, and I did take Tinker off the back once just to see what would happen. And he, when he realized pretty quick what was going on, and then he jumped around me, and then I went to the front and let out John and Tinker. So
Nice.
Yeah, we got closer to the finish line, and Tinker was behind me for several miles while Jason was making the last pull. And as soon as we could kind of see the finish line, he knew what was going down. He all of a sudden he was right next to me, trying to get the air, the clean air behind Jason.
unfortunately, he didn't stick around after the finish, and so we didn't get to chat with
Yeah,
him. But he's a great guy.
it would have been, yeah,
It's always fun to make a
accomplished
break.
athlete. They did highlight his career with his 3 Hall of Fame, uh, awards, and he's 64 and still at it, so he's definitely no slouch. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was good, and we'll see if they have the event again next year. And gravel racing is really on the uptick in Arizona, and they got a series now, and they actually have a couple stage races this 2026.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's plenty of roads in Arizona, so there should be plenty of racing. It's a thriving scene along with the MBAA as well.
I still need to get a gravel
very
bike.
much.
You need
Yeah,
to
I
get a
mean, put
mountain
drop
bike?
bars on that Santa Cruz.
I
All
could
you gotta
Yeah.
do is
do
put
that.
those drop bars. Just switch it over. Come on, Chad.
It's a pretty light hardtop. Could do that. I don't know. I want to go all
Yeah.
in. If I'm going to get a gravel bike, I'll go all in.
You need a 56?
My road bike's more like a 53, so
Oh,
54,
okay. Too
55
big.
probably would be the biggest I'd go.
I'm selling my bike in February.
Oh, nice.
John's going new school on us with the gravel setup.
Oh, that didn't work out. My plan didn't work out, so I'm just getting a new NV Mog in February.
Nice.
I'm building a monster gravel bike. I just traded my e-bike for a gravel bike, and so I got some 650B wheels, and it's got me an arrow chain ring. I'm gonna be right there doing some big adventure rides.
That's serious.
Yeah, I'm getting
That's serious,
serious. So, but
man.
well, as far as anything upcoming, I know you mentioned Chad, you have a marathon upcoming. Anything else besides that?
Just a marathon, then I'll be looking at spending more time on my bike. So I'm looking forward to that. My wife has a break from work from through the holidays and starts up, so I might try to sneak out for some longer rides since I'm not on
Have
dad duty
fun.
full time during that time. So we'll see. But just that marathon and more time on my bike.
I'm interested, Chad. Let me know if I can come down and ride with you.
Okay, that'd be good to get in some riding.
What about you, John? You got anything?
I'm doing Dawn to Dusk with some friends this weekend, three-person team. Nothing major. In January, we'll meet at Bicycle House and ride up to Cordes Junction over through Seven Springs and a Bloody Basin Road. So that's kind of a big adventure in the works in the planning stage. So I guess I need to put some miles in between now and then. That's like 94 miles with quite a bit of climbing. So, I don't want to feel too crappy on that day. So I'll be prepping for there. And in the back of my mind, I always think I'm going to do this festive 500 kilometers between Christmas and New Year, but I never get there because I like spending time with family and, taking the time to kind of chill. We'll see. I'll try to put in some extra miles though and get ready. I don't have a event that I'm really geared up for until probably the end of May if I end up doing Unbound. So I'm just gonna try and put a bunch of things on the calendar every month. Not a bunch, but something really intense on the calendar every month because it's fun and do stuff with friends and, enjoy the process.
Nice. I've started the process, but yeah, I don't have a specific goal or anything. I just want to get back into shape and kind
I
of
remember a goal
get
you
my
had a
place in
couple
a.
years ago that you didn't hit with running.
What was that? Oh, running. I don't know about the running
Running
thing
goal.
anymore.
Oh boy.
I I may come back to that at some point, but right now that's not on my list. I'm either riding an indoor trainer or the trails just got groomed here, so I'll probably get out on the Nordic skis and and do a little bit of that. If I get out on the Nordic skis quite a bit, I may do a marathon Nordic ski race. I did a half
Oh,
last year,
awesome.
and so I may do that. So that's like into January. That's not too much time for me. I'm not a very good Nordic skier. And then our spring season starts for the collegiate team here, and so we'll be down in Arizona for Cactus Cup and the Whiskey Off Road, and actually come down for the 24-hour race in Tucson and then a couple other regional events. So, keeping up with the college kids, that'll definitely get me in shape and then Chad and I are headed to Italy for a camp. So I'm sure that'll set me up pretty well for anything that goes on in the summer.
And you build a little fitness for the camp,
Yeah.
especially if we're doing that big
Definitely.
day, the Pellegrino day. It climbs like
Ooh,
over 15% for how many K? It's a tough one.
ouch.
Yeah. We'll have to let Chad go for the KOM then.
Do they have free bottles of water at the top or just
I don't think it's the
freshly bottled?
actual San Pellegrino. It's just it's another area that's named the same thing, but
Come on.
they need something up there. If you climb up, you need some sort of reward.
reward. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sweet. Well,
no,
hopefully we get to hang out during the holidays sometime, Jason. Are you going to be down here for a while when you come?
I may be in Flagstaff Monday night. Then I will go down to Phoenix on Tuesday, then go down to Tucson for the rest of the week. But I may come back up to Phoenix. So if you're going to be up there, that week before Christmas, let me know and maybe I'll drive
Okay.
up. I'm
We'll
going to
keep in
bring both
touch.
my bikes. I I have this idea of doing this bike packing trip down near the border, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. I don't know if there's enough water stops that I can make
Mm,
it. So I'm trying to figure out some of the details on that. I may do that, but probably not. Maybe I'll save that to
that
when you're
is
available. If you want to do some hiking, it's more of an adventure type ride.
all right. Sounds good.
I'm looking for some gold mines. But yeah, I think we should wrap it up and just say, hey, thanks for listening, and we're gonna get more prompt on our next episodes, and just remember, I think from this episode, just take away that, or my takeaway at least, is local racing is grassroots race. It's where it starts, and whether you're 12 or 13, or you just getting into mountain biking or gravel racing, and if you have that community around you that's going to support you, even if it's just support through having events, it's just incredible to be a part of that. And even though I don't live in Arizona right now, but I wouldn't be where, or I wouldn't have got to where I was without that. And and so it just provides that long-term development that we're all looking for.
Absolutely. Stay local.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see it still going strong after starting back in
Yeah.
'91.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right, I don't have any teasers for next time, but if anybody has any uh wants to see any jerseys, we got a lot. We'll have to
Still
bring
looking
out. We
for the
brought out the
box.
yellow jersey last time. Maybe Chad will have to bring out the green jersey
Oh,
for the next one.
I could do that. There's some
all right.
suffering behind that one. I could do it.
That'll be a good story. I love it.
All right, well, you two guys take care, and
Right on,
we'll see
guys.
you next
Yeah,
time.
you
All
too.
right. See ya.
All right. Take care. Ciao.